Part 6. The Buddha's Travels and Teachings Across India. 6.1. A Life of Wandering. After the first sermon in Sarnath, the Buddha spent the remaining 45 years of his life traveling across the Gangetic plains of northern India. He walked on foot through forests, towns, and villages, teaching people from all walks of life, kings and peasants, Brahmins and outcasts, householders and ascetics, merchants and beggars. He traveled primarily in the regions of Kosala, modern-day eastern Uttar Pradesh, Magadha, modern-day Bihar, Vaji Malakuru Anga. His teachings were simple, practical, and universal. He taught in Pali and local dialects, not in Sanskrit, making his message accessible to common people. His core teachings. Apart from the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path, the Buddha taught several foundational concepts. Annica, impermanence. All things, people, emotions, objects are in a state of constant change. Nothing is permanent. Dukkha, suffering. Because we cling to what is impermanent, suffering arises. Even joy contains the seed of sorrow because it doesn't last. Anatta, non-self. There is no permanent, unchanging self or soul. What we think of as self is a collection of physical and mental components, skandhas, in constant flux. Karma and rebirth. Actions, karma, driven by intention, lead to future results. Good actions lead to favorable rebirths. Harmful actions lead to suffering. Middle path. Avoiding extremes of indulgence and self-denial brings mental balance and spiritual progress. Teaching methods. The Buddha used many methods to teach. Parables and analogies. Idijo. The poisoned arrow, the raft, the blind men and the elephant. Dialogues and questions. Silence, especially when questions were speculative or not conducive to liberation. Tailoring teachings to the listener's background and temperament. His goal was not to create a doctrine, but to guide others toward liberation. Conversion of kings and nobles. Many rulers became patrons of the Buddha and his Sangha, including King Bimbisara of Magadha, offered the Venuvana monastery. King Prasenajit of Kosala became a devoted follower. Anathapindika, a wealthy merchant who donated Jetavana, one of the Buddha's most important monastic residences. These generous donations helped establish permanent monastic centers and support the Sangha's missionary efforts. Women and the Dhamma. One of the Buddha's most revolutionary moves was the acceptance of women into the Sangha. His foster mother Mahaprajapat Gautama was the first nun. He established the Bhikkhuna Sangha with additional rules, Garudamas, for the safety and structure of the community. Women found freedom and dignity through the Dhamma. Many became arahants, fully enlightened beings, equal in spiritual achievement to their male counterparts. Part 7. The Legacy of Compassion. Stories and Miracles of the Buddha 7.1. The Buddha's boundless compassion. Throughout his life, the Buddha was known for his unwavering compassion, deep wisdom, and calm presence. He welcomed everyone, regardless of caste, gender, wealth, or belief. His actions and teachings emphasized universal love, metta, compassion, karuna, sympathetic joy, mudita, and equanimity, upekkha, the four Brahma viharas or divine states of mind. Let's explore some powerful episodes and parables that capture the essence of his life and teachings. 7.2. Notable Stories and Parables. 1. Angulimala, the bandit transformed. Angulimala was a ruthless killer who wore a necklace of his victim's fingers. As he tried to kill the Buddha calmly walked ahead, yet Angulimala couldn't catch him. The Buddha stopped and said, "I have stopped, Angulimala. When will you stop?" This awakened a moment of clarity in the killer. He dropped his weapons and asked for guidance. The Buddha ordained him as a monk. Angulimala eventually became an arahant, fully liberated from suffering. Kisa Gautam, the grieving mother. A woman named Kisa Gautam lost her only child and begged the Buddha to bring him back. The Buddha told her to bring a mustard seed from a house that had never experienced death. She searched in vain. Every home had lost someone. She realized that death is universal. She returned to the Buddha and asked for ordination. She became one of the foremost female disciples. The Parable of the Raft. The Buddha compared the Dhamma to a raft used to cross a river. Once you've crossed, you don't carry the raft on your head. This illustrated non-attachment even to his teachings. They are tools, not doctrines to cling to. The blind men and the elephant. Several blind men touched different parts of an elephant and described it differently. One said it was like a wall, another a rope, another a spear. Several blind men touched different parts of an elephant and described it differently. One said it was like a wall, another a rope, another a spear. The Buddha explained how partial knowledge leads to conflict and misunderstanding. 7.3 Miracles of the Buddha. While the Buddha discouraged displays of supernatural power for personal gain, several miracles were attributed to him. These were seen not as magic but as signs of spiritual mastery. Twin miracle, Yamaka Patiharya. He emitted flames and water from his body simultaneously, a demonstration of his mental control. Taming the wild elephant Nalagiri. The violent elephant was calmed by the Buddha's radiating compassion. Teleporting to heavenly realms. He visited celestial realms to teach gods and deceased relatives. These stories emphasize the power of wisdom and inner peace to transform even the darkest circumstances. 7.4 The teachings to all beings. The Buddha's audiences included kings and queens, farmers and merchants, children and the elderly animals and celestial beings. He was called Sattva Deva Manusanam, teacher of gods and men. Part 8. The Final Journey and Mahaparinibbana, Final Nirvana, 8.1 The Buddha's Last Tour. At the age of 80, the Buddha sensed that his time in the world was coming to an end. He embarked on one final journey through familiar towns, Rajagaha, Nalanda, Vesala, Pava, and finally Kushinagara, continuing to teach, advise, and inspire. Though physically weak, his mind remained serene, luminous, and alert. His focus was to ensure the Dhamma would outlive his physical presence. 8.2 The Last Teachings. In Vesala, he gave his last major address to the monks. All conditioned things are impermanent. Strive on with diligence. He emphasized that his followers should not depend on his physical presence but rely on Dhamma, the teachings, Vinaya, the discipline. These, he said, would be their true teacher after his death. 8.3 The Meal at Pava. While passing through Pava, the Buddha accepted a meal offered by Kunda the smith. Soon after, he became gravely ill, likely from dysentery or food poisoning. Despite the pain, he continued walking to Kushinagara, where he would spend his final moments. He told his attendant, Ananda, "Kunda's offering will bring great merit. He should not be blamed." 8.4 Reaching Kushinagara. Arriving at Kushinagara, the Buddha asked to be laid between two sal trees. As he lay down on his right side in the lion's posture, the sal trees blossomed unseasonably, shedding fragrant petals upon him. Many gathered, monks, nuns, lay followers, even gods, to pay their final respects. 8.5 Final Words and Passing. His final conversation was with Ananda, his loyal attendant. Then he addressed the entire assembly. Be a lamp unto yourselves. Be your own refuge with no other refuge. Let the Dhamma be your lamp and refuge. His last words were, all compounded things are subject to decay. Strive on with diligence. At that moment, the Buddha entered meditative absorption, jhana, one last time. He passed through the stages of deep meditation and entered Mahaparinibbana, final nirvana, the complete release from the cycle of birth and death. 8.6 After the Buddha's death, after his passing, his body was cremated in Kushinagara. His relics were divided among 8 kingdoms and enshrined in stupas across India. These stupas became centers of pilgrimage and devotion. The Mahaparinibbana Sutta, DN 16, records this event in vivid detail. Part 9 The Spread of Buddhism. After the Buddha 9.1, the First Buddhist Council, c. 483 BCE, shortly after the Buddha's Mahaparinibbana, a council was convened in Rajagaha under the patronage of King Ajatashatru. It was attended by 500 arahants, enlightened monks, including Mahakassapa, who presided. 2 key disciples played central roles. Ananda, who recited the Buddha's discourses, suttas, from memory. Upali, who recited the monastic rules, Vinaya. This council aimed to preserve the Buddha's teachings orally, and ensure uniformity of doctrine and discipline. 9.2. The Second and Third Councils, Second Council, c. 383 BCE, Vaishali. About 100 years later, monks debated the interpretation of monastic rules, especially around issues like money handling and food. The conservative group prevailed, maintaining the original Vinaya discipline. This also marked the beginning of divisions within the Sangha. Third Council, c. 250 BCE, Pataliputra, held during the reign of Emperor Ashoka. The Third Council was organized by Moggaliputta Tissa. It aimed to purify the Sangha from corruption and heretical sects. The Abhidhamma Pitaka, philosophical teachings, was also systematized during this period. 9.3. Emperor Ashoka, the Great Patron. One of the greatest forces behind Buddhism's spread was Ashoka the Great, r. 268–232 BCE of the Maurya dynasty. Ashoka's transformation. After the bloody Kalinga War, Ashoka embraced Buddhism. He renounced violence and adopted Dhamma as the moral foundation of his empire. He built thousands of stupas and monasteries, erected rock edicts across India promoting Buddhist values, supported the monastic Sangha, and enforced ethical governance. Organized missionary efforts to far regions. 9.4 Buddhist missions under Ashoka. Ashoka sent Buddhist missions far and wide. Sri Lanka, led by his son Mahinda and daughter Sanghamita. King Devanampia Tissa converted, and Buddhism became the island's dominant faith. Gandhara and Central Asia, leading to Greco-Buddhist art and culture. Burma, Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, and Cambodia. Yavana, Greek regions, establishing early ties with the Hellenistic world. These missions mark the birth of global Buddhism. 9. 5 sectarian developments, Theravada and Mahayana. Over time, different interpretations emerged, forming Buddhist schools. Theravada, teaching of the elders, preserved in Pali Canon Tipitaka, emphasizes monastic discipline, meditation, and the ideal of the arahant. Predominant in Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, and Cambodia, Mahayana, great vehicle, emerged around the 1st century CE, introduced bodhisattva ideal, aspiring to attain Buddhahood for the sake of all beings, developed vast literature, Prajnaparamita, Lotus Sutra, Avatamsaka Sutra, spread to China, Korea, Japan, Vietnam, and Nepal. Other notable schools include Vajrayana, Tibetan Buddhism, emphasizes esoteric rituals and meditation. Zen Japan, focuses on direct experience and meditation. Pure Land, devotional form focusing on Amitabha Buddha. 9.6 Buddhist art and culture. As Buddhism spread, it inspired a rich cultural and artistic heritage. Stupas like Sanchi and Bharut in India. Gandhara art blending Greek and Indian styles. Ajanta and Ellora caves with intricate frescoes and carvings. Nalanda and Takshashila, ancient universities teaching Buddhism, philosophy, science, and medicine. Buddhist values also influenced governance, literature, ethics, and education across Asia. Part 10. Gautama Buddha's enduring legacy and global influence. 10.1 Preservation of the teachings. After the Buddha's Mahaparinibbana, the responsibility to preserve and transmit his teachings fell to the Sangha. The teachings were first maintained orally and later written down in various languages. Pali Canon Tipitaka, Theravada tradition, Sanskrit Sutras, Mahayana schools, Tibetan Kangyur and Tengyur Chinese Buddhist canon. These texts ensured the survival and expansion of Buddhism across time and geography. 10.2 Influence on Eastern cultures. Buddhism profoundly shaped the spiritual, cultural, and social fabric of Asia. Sri Lanka, established as the state religion, centers like Anuradhapura flourished. Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, strongholds of Theravada. Buddhism influenced kingship, festivals, and education. China, integrated with Confucian and Taoist traditions. Major schools like Chan Zen developed. Japan, Zen Pure Land, and Nichiren Buddhism played spiritual and political roles. Tibet, Vajrayana Buddhism became the national tradition, guided by Dalai Lamas. Korea and Vietnam adopted Mahayana and Zen traditions. Art, architecture, literature, and daily life were infused with Buddhist values of compassion, mindfulness, and harmony. 10.3 Modern Renaissance. From the 19th century onward, Buddhism underwent a global revival. Scholars translated sacred texts into European languages. Reformers like Anagarika Dharmapala, Thich Nhat Hanh, and the Dalai Lama popularized Buddhism internationally. Buddhist centers and temples emerged in Europe, North America, and Australia. Meditation and mindfulness gained traction in psychology and wellness. Vipassana, Zen, and Tibetan meditation practices are now embraced worldwide. 10.4 Influence on global thought. Gautama Buddha's influence extends beyond religion. Psychology. Concepts like mindfulness, detachment, and non-reactivity are widely used in CBT and MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction, ethics, and philosophy. His insights on impermanence, interdependence, and suffering inform existential and humanistic philosophies. Ecology and ethics. Buddhism's message of non-harm, ahimsa, aligns with ecological and animal rights movements. Peace movements. Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., and others drew inspiration from Buddha's message of non-violence and compassion. 10.5 Global Buddhism. Today, Buddhism exists in many forms. Traditional, continued practice in monasteries and temples. Modern, adapted into secular formats like mindfulness and wellness coaching. Digital, online teachings, podcasts, YouTube channels, and virtual meditation retreats. Millions across the globe, regardless of culture or background, turn to the Dhamma for spiritual growth and mental clarity. 10.6 The Legacy of Gautama Buddha. Gautama Buddha's legacy is timeless because it speaks to the universal human condition. His message of letting go of craving, embracing compassion, seeing the world with wisdom, cultivating inner peace remains as relevant today as it was 2,500 years ago. He was not a god, but a man who realized truth and showed humanity how to do the same. Conclusion. The story of Gautama Buddha is not just a historical narrative. It's a living guide for anyone seeking freedom from suffering, clarity of mind, and peace of heart. His legacy is not carved only in temples or texts, but in the lives of those who walk the middle path.